and seafood. Hope everybody is having a great morning so far. We're going to make sure you like and share. Do me a favor, hit that like and share button for us. I'm going to do the same right here. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, we're going to get into talking about the NFL. I mean, it's amazing how the NFL just dominates the landscape of our lives when it comes to sports in the United States of America. Doesn't matter if they're playing, if they're not playing, they're always the lead story. And obviously the lead story right around here for you New Orleans Saints fans is who will be the quarterback next year for the Saints, because we know two people that will not be, and that is Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers signs a 4-year deal with the Packers, so he's going to stay put. And an hour later, Russell Wilson, a big trade. He is headed to Denver to be the savior over there. And how about Denver? In a matter of a decade, they get Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson by way of trade. And maybe this will pay off like it did with Peyton when they went to the Super Bowl twice and won one. But Russell Wilson in a big trade. By the way, Denver gave up a lot to get him. He's headed there. That means the New Orleans Saints right now headed to camp with Taysom Hill, Ian Book, and Blake Bortles. Good luck with that. We'll talk about what the fallout is with this. Also, giant story here locally in Louisiana in the world of basketball. LSU, Will Wade. We know that the NCAA has now, sent its letter of notice to the LSU Tigers. They have 3 weeks to respond, which means realistically they'll respond at the 11th hour, and LSU's basketball season will, all intents and purposes, be over with when they respond. It'll probably take place the day or two after, hopefully. Actually, the date of when they have to respond would be after the Elite Eight, meaning that LSU would have to be going to the Final Four in order for them to still have their season happening. And with the way they've played inconsistently, and now you throw this distraction on top of the table. LSU may not even win a game in the NCAA tournament. There's going to be so much crap surrounding this team. But that said, the future of Will Wade and LSU basketball very much up in the air. We've been kind of waiting for the shoe to drop, and it looks like now the shoe has officially dropped. Let's bring in TK with us over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Tommy, the first giant story of the world of sports was yesterday. We didn't just get one franchise Hall of Fame quarterback moving, making a giant decision. We had two.
Yeah, we really did. And they were back to back, about an hour apart or so. All the stuff with Aaron Rodgers, from the I'm immunized to, where's he going to be? Is he going to host Jeopardy? Might he be with the Saints? I mean, when you throw it all in, it's all out the window now because he does the 4-year deal, reportedly for $200 million. With the Green Bay Packers, and then an hour later, a deal that was already figured out for Denver if they didn't get Rodgers. They sent a lot of picks, a lot of players to Seattle to get Russell Wilson while on the AFC.
So your reaction, first off, which are you more surprised by? The fact that Aaron Rodgers signed with the Green Bay Packers, or the fact that Russell Wilson is traded to the Denver Broncos?
I'm most surprised by the Packers, by Rodgers going back to the Packers. Of course, they hired Tom Clements, his old quarterback coach. I mean, you got to give them credit. They've done everything they possibly could to keep him. I'm surprised. I expected Wilson to be gone based on a lot of things that I read. And then we're really told they're going to be gone is head coach Pete Carroll, saying last week, we have no intention of trading him. Well, that's all posturing in the media. We've seen tons of examples of that. So to answer your question, I was most surprised by Rodgers going back to the Packers. But I think Rodgers thinks, hey, I got a better chance to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC than the AFC.
That is a fact, Jack. I mean, we said that before this, that, take aside from who was going to be the quarterback in Denver, and I think we both thought, it would be Rodgers more than it would be Russell Wilson. But it's a much harder route to the Super Bowl in the AFC. Looking at the NFC right now, Tommy, obviously you'd have to say the Rams are the favorite. They're the Super Bowl champs. So the Rams are the power. I would put Aaron Rodgers and the Packers a strong 1B, 2 on that list. And then after that, it's a coin flip, I guess, between the Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys. But for the most part, I don't think anybody fears the Cardinals or the Dallas Cowboys. So, I mean, it's pretty much a Rams-Packers, unless something weird happens with injuries, put them in put those guys in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And you see Chance is talking about Garoppolo in New Orleans because there's talk that Brady wants to go to Frisco. So it's not that we still got some layers to the dust has to settle a few times, a few places. But you're right. I mean, the AFC is where the power is. That bounces around from every 4 or 5 years that cycles around. And of course, it leads you back to the Saints because both Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson's name came up in conversation when the Saints were, in those conversations. I don't think it was ever close to a deal, obviously, but it came up. So as of right now, Saints, you got to be thinking it's a Jameis Winston thing at this point, but that could still change.
I would think that this obviously the Saints are going to have the inside track when it comes to Jameis Winston, and what we just don't know is how much they really love Jameis Winston. They said all the right things about Jameis Winston when he was healthy, and he was really their best option. But now that you have a choice, and what I mean by choice, you don't have a lot of great choices. You don't have franchise choices, but you've got choices to go get who you want. Do you want to take a question mark on an injured Jameis Winston, where you had almost you had a year and a half of a sample size to be around him and with him, and really 2 years. Obviously he's around, but did you see enough to think, okay, if he is healthy and 100% back, man, this guy, we can get a deal on him, and over the course of the next 2 years, he can become our franchise quarterback? That we just don't truly know, and I don't know that I know that answer either, Tommy. I thought they won with him, but it wasn't like they didn't win because of him. I don't know that they won games because Jameis Winston won games. We know they won games because of Drew Brees. I thought Jameis Winston made some plays. He managed some games. He happened to be the quarterback when the defense was as good as it was. But I don't know that he was a giant difference maker. Because he threw some 50-50 balls. He still took some chances, when he's getting sacked, just slinging it. That you don't like to see. So I don't know that he got it all out of his system, and I worry that when you don't have a Sean Payton as the head coach there, how much that will affect his growth, and will he revert back to being a little bit more of a gambler if the Saints go with Jameis Winston? So even the Saints are in a pickle, Tommy. No matter who they get at quarterback, whether it's Trubisky, that's a Joel Davis wannabe pick, whether it's Jimmy G, that's a Chance Babin pick, whether it's Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, which you kind of had last year. To me, this is at best a 9-win team.
Well, here's what I think. Let's look at what we've seen in the last couple of months. Mickey Loomis, we've seen a continuity thing. Promoting Dennis Allen, keeping Carmichael around, keeping some other guys around. So if you look they like the fact that Winston's been here. They know him. He knows them. He knows the system. He knows he knows what door goes to what room. I'd bet a Diet Coke that it's Jameis Winston, the guy going forward, unless they can't agree with a contract. But who's got the leverage here, the Saints or Winston? I think the Saints do, because he's coming off the injury.
I think the Saints do. There's no question about it. There's no question about that. It's just, what the good news is that with the NFC South, Tampa Bay is going to be like the Saints were last year when Drew Brees, retired, and you had that hangover effect, and you're trying to figure out the next move. And they had a lot of players that re-signed for that one more year with Tom Brady, giving up money and doing a short-term deal to try to go back-to-back Super Bowls. So they're spreading all around. So the Bucs are going to take a step back in a big way. Are you buying Atlanta? Are you still buying Matt Ryan? I'm not. And Carolina's in flux. So the good news is for the Saints division, it feels more like the NFC East than it does the NFC South. And the winning team in the division might only have 9 wins. You might be able to win the division with 9 wins, Tommy.
I agree with you. The NFC South, was one of the toughest divisions in football a short 2 years ago or so. And of course, the Saints won that thing 4 times in a row until last year. So it'll be interesting to see what goes forward for the Saints, and for that matter, the NFC South, because that's 6 of their games on the schedule, and if you win that, I don't care if you got 8 wins or 9 wins, you win it, you're in the playoffs. So then anything can happen.
Um, the out of the Rams and the Packers, I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers, 4 years. We don't know what he's saying. Some of the things that have been reported are erroneous. We know that 4 years, 200 million, roughly therein is what's the kind of the number that we're hearing. I like you, Tommy. I'm very surprised that he did that. It seemed to me like he genuinely wanted out of Green Bay, that he might have been interested in either going West Coast for various reasons. We know the Jeopardy angle. But I think when he looked around, it's one, you could probably do you want to go to Denver, which is a better situation, Denver or Green Bay? Denver's not a lock situation. They have a lot of cap room, but it's still a cold environment. And then, as you mentioned, you got to go through all these young studs, and you got to play Patrick Mahomes twice. You got the Raiders are an up and coming team and a franchise that a lot of people are going to want to go to Las Vegas and live in Las Vegas and play in that stadium and all that. So the Raiders are going to be an up-and-coming franchise, particularly on this free agent market. So I think there's some value in what and being in, starting and playing his whole career in Green Bay, but also absolutely looking at the path to the Super Bowl and going, I think if you're Aaron Rodgers, we're penciled into the NFC Championship game. Whether we're hosting or on the road, we're in the NFC Championship game.
Well, they're definitely the team to beat in the NFC now. They got Devontae Adams. I mean, they got what they need, and they're the team to beat as of right now in the NFC. And as you and I said earlier, the road to the Super Bowl is easier in Green Bay than it is Denver.
We'll see what happens with Adams, his star receiver. That's the big question.
Now I know what's going to happen. He's going to end up in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, he's going to have to take a pay cut for sure.
And they got to be, the Rams are the reigning Super Bowl champs, but Rodgers has been better for a longer period of time than Stafford. So right now, the Packers are the number one team in the NFC.
Chance asking, how about Ridley getting suspended for gambling? So Ridley, of course, was suspended for a year in the NFL for allegedly placing a $1,500 bet. And this is so hypocritical.
It's not allegedly.
What's that?
Because it's not allegedly. The NFL's deal with all these gambling companies is gambling companies supposed to report if a player bets. He bet from his cell phone, or somebody bet from his cell phone in Florida on an app that was legal. Okay. Now, here's the thing I want to say. Like when guys fail drug tests now, I think they should report, here's a guy who didn't know how to beat the drug test, so he got caught. So why wouldn't Ridley give $1,500 to his partner and say, hey, make a bet for me? No different than if Peyton Manning is in Louisiana, he came to me and said, TK, here's a grand throw. Well, he ain't the league no more. Bad example. But, there's he's not the only guy that's betting in the NFL. Okay, he's the fifth guy in the history of the NFL to be suspended for gambling. By the way, I got a funny story, Ronnie. The first guy ever suspended for gambling was Alex Karras. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Defensive lineman for the Lions.
He was the dad on Webster.
And he was laughing when Dempsey was about to attempt a 63-yard field goal, which he made. One of the funniest lines ever is when he returned to football, he was a team captain for the Lions, and he went out for the coin toss, and the ref said heads or tails. He said, I'm told I can't gamble.
Nice. Nice.
But anyway, so Ridley, look, Deshaun Watson, if there's a team out there that wants him, that dude ain't playing in the NFL. If Ridley, and the suspension says at least 1 year, it'll be reevaluated 1 year from the day it was announced. And that'll cost him $11 million. So that $1,500 bet cost him $11 million because he didn't have a friend do it.
It just takes a moment, right? Just one moment for it to cost you your career. Because look at Alvin Kamara. It's I estimate that shove and punch, a few punches, is going to cost him $10-11 million based on what's expected.
Way, that court date got pushed back a little bit, which is not good if you're thinking you want Kamara at the beginning of the season.
This is a goofy deal because the fact that we can sit here and talk about Deshaun Watson possibly playing in the NFL, and for a guy who has over 20 women have come forward with alleged sexual impropriety type situation, and that the fact that he's not banned officially in any sort of way, but the fact that, that it's come out that maybe the Seattle Seahawks are trying to, get him and all that kind of thing. But yet Calvin Ridley bets $1,500 on a game and he's suspended a year. But with a guy who's got this, litany of lawsuits and whatnot from women, it's just weird. And then the fact that the that the NFL, Tommy, has taken such a hard stance on gambling when they embrace it, endorse it. It's now at LaBerge and everywhere. Heck, they've got a pro football team in Las Vegas after they said they'd never do that. And all of a sudden a $1,500 bet when it's not even on your team. Again, it's the old Pete Rose issue. Did you bet on your team or not? But they know he didn't bet on his team. That costs you a whole year. That to me is just too severe.
Here's the difference, Ronnie. What Ridley did is not against the law. It's against the NFL rules.
Right.
What Watson did is against the law. That's that end of case. I'm not an attorney, but I rest my case now because Watson will never take another snap in the NFL.
It would be hard for me to imagine him ever taking a snap unless it comes out that, unless they can prove in some kind of way that, multiple women, it doesn't even have to be all 22. It just has to be enough a quarter. But if they can prove that multiple women lied, that they fabricated these allegations, more than one, right? Then he can say, well, they all did. And, and there's a he said, she said there. But if you can prove that a few of them lied, which I don't know that they can prove either way. That's the thing. But where there's smoke, there's fire, right? The court of public opinion is going to believe 20-something plus people all saying a similar thing, regardless of whether there's physical evidence or video evidence or audio evidence or text messages or whatever. If you got 20-something people that say, he did that to me too, people are going to believe the 20-something people. But if just somehow Deshaun Watson can and his people can somehow prove that two or more of them are completely lying, whether they find some text messages or they get some sort of blackmail card that they can play, then maybe he's got a chance. But right now it doesn't look like it.
He'd have to pay off all 22 people like Ray Lewis paid off the people in the double murder to keep himself out of it. And Ronnie, if one of those women is not lying, he's never playing in the NFL again. Ask Ray Rice.
Right. All right, let's move on to the big topic with LSU. And by the way, LSU Baseball, just before we get to the Will Wade and LSU Baseball rescheduled for tonight against McNeese. Expected that Will Helmers will get the start on the mound for LSU tonight. And, of course, they'll play at 6:30 at Alex Box Stadium. They need to kind of right the ship, especially on the defensive side. That's been the topic of conversation, Tommy, when talking to a lot of former players and even the LSU coaches that talked to Jay Johnson a little bit yesterday. The surprise at the poor play defensively over the first 3 weeks of the season. That's really been the biggest surprise. Not even the inconsistency on the pitching. We kind of knew that to a certain extent. But the errors is something that, and to me, that's the most fixable thing.
26 errors in 12 games. No team, no coach wants that. So that's got to be cleaned up. Now, pressure jumps in here, Ronnie, because you're that player who the ground ball is hit to. You got to catch it. You got to make an accurate throw. First baseman over there has got to catch it. So there's a couple of parts to that. So let's hope they can clean that up. But they play baseball at LSU. They play baseball in the SEC. They should be resilient enough to clean that up. I mean, they're going to have to, because you can't give teams extra outs, especially when you're playing the likes of Texas and Baylor. You can't do that, although I don't think they had an error against Texas. But when you're playing a good team, I don't care who it is. If that's McNeese tonight, who's 8-4 coming in, they're a good team. Justin Hill's a good coach. So if you make some errors, it could cost you the game.
The big story that we've been kind of waiting for, it seems like for years, has been LSU basketball and this NCAA investigation and what's Will Wade's future. And we know that Scott Woodward didn't hire him. We know that when he got suspended a few years back, they reworked his contract and put a clause in there that if the NCAA did officially come down with anything, they could fire him for cause without owing him a dime if they chose to do that. Well, it seems like we're at the 11th hour and that finally we now know that the shoe is going to drop. We don't know to the extent, but reports out of Sports Illustrated is that yesterday LSU basketball did receive articles of notification from the NCAA that they, were given information about the investigation. They have 3 weeks to respond. When they do respond, then it'll become public notice as to what's in that report. All of this does not sound good. The good news is that LSU basketball is going to be dealing with this after their season's over with, provided LSU doesn't make it to the Final Four. So that's good. We can get the season over with. Whoever's going to leave because they're seniors or go pro is going to go pro. Obviously, the question is, will Wade's future, and will LSU stand by a coach who's going to have some dirty laundry come out, and potentially LSU, NCAA is going to probably have some sort of sanctions against the program, whether it be scholarships or postseason ban.
Well, the timing of this raises a flag, and it's definitely calculated by the NCAA. While everybody's attention, LSU scheduled to play 1:30 tomorrow against the winner of the Ole Miss Missouri game tonight. They're going to ask Will Wade questions, and he's going to say, I have no comment. I want to talk about the game and the team and all that. I get all that. But I will go out on a limb here. Will Wade's not going to be the coach of the basketball team next year. I really don't think so. As Craig said, Woodward's got an opportunity. Not going to cost him any money to get rid of him. Woodward didn't hire Will Wade. There's going to be, in my opinion, there's going to be a new basketball coach because the shoe's going to drop, and it's going to drop pretty hard.
Chance mentions that Kansas and Auburn extended their coaches after NCAA violations. There's a big difference, though, in those situations and in the LSU situation. With the LSU situation, it's squarely on the back of Will Wade. There's audio that's Will Wade discussing it. In the Kansas and Auburn situations, it was more about the assistant coaches. Yeah, it happened under those guys, Pearl and Self's watch. But, again, you've got an AD who didn't hire this guy. But mainly it's Will Wade who's the loose cannon, who's gone rogue, who is the one that was sloppy when he got the job at LSU and found himself on phone calls discussing things he shouldn't be discussing. They should have been an intermediate. There should have been someone else, a booster or a down the line assistant or something, to have those kinds of conversations, not the head coach himself, particularly not ever on a phone. And at the end of the day, that's it. I mean, that's it. If it was a he said, she said situation and you didn't have audio, this would be a lot easier for LSU to stomach. Or if you wanted to blame a third assistant, you could get rid of him and all that. But I don't know how. Here's the other thing, Tommy. If LSU doesn't come down harsh on Will Wade, then probably the NCAA comes down harder on the LSU. And so it's kind of a, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to get rid of him? Oh, you're not going to get rid of him? Okay, bam. You're suspended for 3 years. You're postseason banned for 2 years. We're taking away 5 scholarships a year. Like, it's likely that the NCAA is going to really hammer you if you don't show that you care enough internally.
Well, and don't forget, also included with the basketball allegations are some football things with Odell Beckham Jr. giving out the cash in the locker room. So, those pale in comparison to the Will Wade thing. But there's also some football stuff in here. And then you got James Craig, the former offensive line coach, suing LSU because he thinks he got treated differently than Will Wade's getting treated. So the LSU the law firm or whoever the attorneys are representing LSU, they're going to be quite busy here in the very near future. So it's a mess, and sooner or later it's going to sort itself out. I think you're going to have a new basketball coach for the men's team next year. Can they let Kim Mulkey coach both? Is there enough time in the day to coach both?
I don't think she can coach both, Tommy, but it would be very interesting. Unfortunately, this is happening too soon because Kim Mulkey's not going to want to leave right now. But I was thinking, like, let's just say hypothetically, Kim Mulkey coaches LSU's women for 3 or 4 years. They make it to the Final Four once or twice. Maybe they win a national championship. Okay, let's say she's the coach for 4 years and they win a national championship at least once, and then LSU's still in flux with its men's program. It would be awesome if they said, you know what, we're going to make you, do you want to be the first women's basketball coach in a Power 5 conference? The only problem with that is, Kim Mulkey's getting up in age. She's in her 60s. Does she want to take that on at 63, 4, 5 years old? That's the only problem. But I would love, if there's anybody who could do it, it's absolutely her. I would love to see Kim Mulkey be the men's basketball coach for that experiment, because I don't think it's a circus act type of deal. I think she could actually get it done, and I think the players would absolutely respect her.
Well, and I don't know if she'd even want to do that. I guess somebody can ask her that this summer, like, hey, Kim, what if 4 years from now? And then she'd say, well, I'd worry about that when it happened. But I agree with you that if anybody could do it, it would be Kim Mulkey.
Speaking of Kim Mulkey, they got a little time off. Obviously, they got one and done in the SEC tournament, and then they're basically going to be 2 weeks before they play again. So that gives them plenty of time to rest, heal. And obviously she's going to have their attention. Those players are going to be more happy to get back and play another opponent than they are going to practice, because I'm sure those things are going to be pretty hard. Rachel on there, excited about the idea of Kim Mulkey possibly being the next basketball coach. And my Aunt Marcia, by the way, thanks for watching, Aunt Marcia. Hey, up in age, watch it, because she's getting close to that similar age. No, Tom Cream will not do that.
We got him out today, Ronnie.
But everybody's a comedian. But when we get back to LSU basketball, Tommy, LSU just came off of a nice win, but now I can't imagine how they're going to be able to focus. Look, all those players are nervous, Tommy. All those players that are potentially coming back, right? Not the ones that are, graduating. But all those players that are coming back are now having conversations with their family. Do I go in the portal? Do I not go in the portal? Where am I going to be next year? Because trust me, if Will Wade's not the coach, forget sanctions, forget what's probably going to happen to LSU basketball. But if you just simply lose your coach, some of those guys are going to leave just because of that, because you're going to have a whole new staff no matter who comes in. But then you throw on top of potential a postseason ban or limitations on scholarships. If that goes beyond Will Wade, they know we're not going to be good. I mean, it's going to be a mass exodus, and this is going to be kind of what John Brady inherited from Dale Brown when he took over in the late 90s. If you remember, there were a couple lean years before a guy by the name of Stromile Swift showed up and Jabari Smith, and they ended up making it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, no, you have to let it play out. I don't think it's going to be good news for this men's basketball program.
All right, TK, Wednesday, where we're, let's see, a Friday, you'll be back at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Tell us about what's going on at Tremonti's.
Well, today the lunch special is lasagna with a little salad, a little fried bread. If you hadn't had the fried bread, you need to try that. All your Chairman's Reserve meats, seafood, crawfish. You can order live crawfish, boiled crawfish. They'll have boiled crawfish Friday afternoon and Saturday for you. A lot of people buying the sacks of crawfish and boiling their own. Just call Tremonti's or stop by on Jefferson Highway right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Connect on Facebook or Instagram. They post all the specials there. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Baton Rouge. There'll be a big crowd for lunch as always. Plenty of wines. You can see the wines behind me. Whiskey. They just filled the whiskey shelves up. Lots of good stuff here. If you haven't been to Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, I had a friend the other day who had never been here. He came in here. He said, I can't believe all the things they got at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. You need to do the same thing. Stop by, tell Mike and Wayne and Tony and the staff hello. They'll be glad to see you and help you with anything you need, including catering for that office party, that family party, that function. He supplied a lot of things for my son's couple's shower for his wedding the other night. So they can do lots of things here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge.
By the way, just a quick little shout out to the Davis family. I went to a funeral on Monday for Randy Davis. Randy Davis was the former, pitching coach at LSU from 1988 to the fall of 1990. He left in December of 1990 to be the pitching coach at South Carolina. So Randy was a pitching coach for 3 years, 88, 89, and 90. Obviously, in 89 and 90, they went to the College World Series, had great teams those years. He coached the likes of, Chad Ogea, Paul Berg, Kurt Laskanik, Russ Springer, Ben McDonald, a young Ron Rance, and many others. But Mike Sorotka, Rick Green, I mean, just a great litany of guys. But he was an awesome dude. He went to South Carolina. was the pitching coach there, turned that into being named head coach at Louisiana Tech for a couple of seasons, and then decided to get into financial advising after that in the late 90s, and was fantastic at his job and helped a lot of people, particularly in the state of Louisiana. But it was a who's who at his funeral. Obviously, Skip Bertman, Paul Maneri, many former players were there. John O'Donohue, Odie spoke, Ben McDonald spoke. But Will Davis, of course, who played at LSU, and he's the head coach and coached, and then now he's the head coach at Lamar, was there. And Randy recruited me going back to 1987. So that's how far back I go with Randy Davis. He was a heck of a guy, great storyteller. Grew up in the Natchitoches area, played at Natchitoches Central, coached at Natchitoches Central. So going too soon, only 65, 66 years old. I mean, just ridiculous. He suffered through Alzheimer's and whatnot over the last few years. So he will be missed. It was great seeing a lot of former teammates, a lot of younger guys. Javi Sanchez flew in from Miami to be there to support Will Davis. And the family is first class. So definitely thoughts and prayers to the Davis family. And I was fortunate to be a pallbearer with a lot of those great old friends. So Randy will be missed. CD, as he was called, CD for Coach Davis.
Well, I tell you, I've met him a couple of times, and you're right. He's told some stories, but obviously he was an incredible evaluator of talent for recruiting Ron Rance.
He was a great evaluator of talent because when Buzzy Heidel graduated from college, he went to work for like 8 months with Randy Davis in his office as a financial advisor. And Randy probably realized that wasn't a great career path for him, so he moved him to insurance. So, and Buzzy's been very successful owning his own insurance company ever since. So, hey man, this might not be for you. Maybe you should do insurance. But we love Buzz. We kid. All right, we'll be back Friday morning for more Sports Shorts Daily presented by LaBerge Casino. Please like and share this video, and thanks to Tremonti's as well.